Flaws and all, womanhood, sisterhood, and traveling through the worst hood, adulthood, conversation from a woman's point of view. This is the S.I.S Podcast.
Hey, this is Jenny. Coming up on the next episode of the S.I.S Podcast, we're talking toxic relationships. How was he toxic? How were you toxic?
There were situations where there are definitely red flags. And I definitely think that, women, when there are red flags, pay attention to those red flags early on.
When a person shows you who they are, believe them.
Exactly. Like,
child. But you know what? In saying that, I want to pull on something that is stigmatized. And the truth is, what plays into, I feel like, a lot of toxicity when it comes to especially Black women is our culture. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the S.I.S Podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts.
Flaws and all, womanhood, sisterhood, and traveling through the worst hood, adulthood, conversation from a woman's point of view. This is the S.I.S Podcast.
Hey, sis.
Hey, sis.
It's your girl, Jenny, a.k.a. Mrs. O'Neal. Welcome back. To my left, I have
your girl, Quill. Hey, y'all. And I'm Fee.
Hi, it's your girl, Queez. And last but most certainly not least, it's your live S.I.S T-What, everyone's favorite T-T.
Mercy.
Lord. So for those of y'all who are just tuning in, welcome. And to those of y'all who have been listening all season and coming back from season 1, welcome back.
Welcome back.
Good to see you. Now, I just want to give y'all a little slight disclaimer because this episode might be heavy for a lot of people. Because we getting real deep, talking real relationships. Our last episode, we kind of ended heart over vision. It's really kind of when you let that love blind you.
Right.
And oftentimes when love blinds you, it leads you into what? A toxic addiction.
Ooh, Lord.
Like, and anybody who's been addicted to anything, baby, that will have you doing stuff you ain't never thought it was possible. So I'm just letting y'all know it can get a little heavy. Some of y'all might want to grab some tissues. Some of y'all might feel triggered. It is okay because we really just want to take y'all on this journey of understanding what it means to get into something toxic and get out of it.
Right.
Absolutely. So, yeah. So, many times it seems like the most toxic relationships really come from feeling like you cannot be without that person.
Man, what?
It's like that person is your air, your everything. Like you cannot breathe, you cannot move. It's just like, oh my God. Ooh, no. So it's literally like you become addicted. That person is your drug. Literally, you're in love. Everything feels amazing. Nothing can go wrong. You literally feel like you are floating on a cloud.
Man.
But what happens when the weather changes to a full thunderstorm with a tornado and it's like tsunami waves just start knocking you from left to right? You like, child, what am I going to do? And honestly, one of the hardest drugs to kick is love. Once it's taken over and everything has turned toxic. So just to give y'all a little statistics so to know that you are not alone. According to the National Institute of Justice, by the end of young adulthood, 56% of people, both men and women, will have reported being a victim or perpetrator of relationship abuse.
Wow. That's crazy.
So, yeah,
that's crazy.
56%. So it's like between us, at least 4 of us done been in something toxic.
Yeah.
And so that kind of really leads me into my first question.
You mean 3?
No, 56. I mean, you can't have a person now.
I'm sorry.
Tomato.
Right. I mean, I'm just saying.
So, please, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
What do you feel was like the most toxic relationship you've been in and why?
Whew, Lord. Well, I know it was toxic because, like I said, I was a relationship girl. So high school relationships, college guys relationship, was in 2 major relationships. And the one that was toxic for me, it was just like we were inseparable. We did everything together just about. And so when those times where things were great, it was so great that it was like, I can't be without this person. So, when they got bad, it was kind of shocking, especially the very first time. The very first time you're in a toxic relationship and you don't know it, it's like when it gets bad, it's like, oh, all couples fight. We start making those disclaimers and, try to justify what happened. Like, oh, all couples fight, you want to fight so you can get back to where yours all lovey-dovey. And, they talk about the makeup sex. So you're like, oh, we're supposed to fight so that we can get to the makeup sex.
And that shit good, too.
And it's good.
Different,
But what it does, the makeup sex, it can sometimes cloud your vision and really see
1,000%.
what's really going on.
Stigmatized.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's
the definition.
Oh, definitely. Yes. So I feel like just trying to get back, and because of being, stigmatized in some areas, it was just like trying to always keep going to that. Like she said, it was an addiction. So it's like you always trying to get back to that high of, oh, everything's good, everything's okay. I'm not, I'm not dealing with anything crazy, or looking at other folks' situation. It could be worse.
Baby,
there you go. That's what when you start doing that comparison. That's
worse.
Yeah, when you do that comparison, that is very,
God.
very toxic.
Do you remember when you started to realize it was getting into this? I don't know what's going on, but this ain't supposed to be here.
Well, see, you never really actually realize it. It's like it's kind of like an out of body experience you have. It's like one day you look at it and like, what are you doing? But when you're in it, you just like you're making all these excuses. You're like, okay, yeah, it's fine. It's just like one time, or it's not. We don't really fight that often. We're happy more than anything, so it's not really that bad. And then until you look back and you're like, hold on, wait a minute, what was you doing? What were you thinking? What was your antennas? Well, you should have been tuned in. What's going on?
Antennas was broke.
But then, we also know that it's not always about toxic relationships when it comes to physically or even mentally. It's different kinds. So.
Very much so.
What about you, Fee?
Honestly, as you were talking, my brain went to really thinking about like what is toxic, like because we're saying toxic relationships, but my definition of toxic versus your definition of toxic may be different. Yeah. So I do want to identify for me what toxic is. Toxic is doing something. Toxic is doing something that you shouldn't do, but you can't help but do it, and repeating it with the same outcome. It's kind of like insanity.
Oh, yeah.
It is insanity.
Exactly what it is.
It's definitely insanity.
Yeah. Being in love is insanity.
You have to have a piece of insanity to do
it. For sure. But what makes it so toxic is knowing that it's bad for you and not being able to control or not feeling like you can control being addicted to it or being drawn to that particular feeling.
It's the excuses that you build inside yourself. You're always telling yourself and verifying and justifying those actions. That's where the toxic comes from. It's like you keep on getting the same outcome, but you said, but the next time it's gonna be all right. Or the next time
when you find yourself making more excuses, some shit is turning toxic.
That list, pros and cons, and them cons outweighing them pros.
So what about you, Quail?
For me, I feel like, personally for me, my toxic trait was like, I talk back or whatever. Like I feel like men don't want you to say anything back. When you're having an argument, they don't want you to make points. And your girl gonna make her point.
Hello.
If it's pushing buttons, then you have to handle that a certain way. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's what I found myself in my freshman year was like the getting into arguments, and now you want to get extra aggressive because you can't out-talk me. No, we gonna go tit for tat. Is this what we doing?
That's because it's emasculating to men. When you begin to like show that type of strength, they want us to be strong enough to tell other people no, but they also want us to be submissive enough as well. So when you begin to challenge a man, then all of a sudden he has to show you his strength versus show you his strength.
That's where that toxic, that dominance, that domineering, next thing you know, they're over top of you. They're muscling up. Now it's unity and to put you back in a box, in a space to submit and let them be right.
And I love
when they know they're wrong.
Right.
They have to be right in that moment.
Yeah. So I love that you said the whole submit thing, which I did just mention a second ago. But a toxic relationship is an unhealthy relationship which one or both people involved exhibit controlling behavior.
100%.
Yes.
It
If
is
I can't
a
get my
battle
way, I'm a cut
for
up.
control.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And it's like we have to be clear on what control looks like, because the truth is control don't always look like I said stay in the house.
Exactly.
Right.
It's manipulative.
It can, and that's when like the toxicity, it be like, damn, I didn't even. It's like smacked you in the face.
Yeah. Mhm.
Because it's like you'll find yourself. They don't even have to tell you stay in the house. You just stay in the house.
Exactly.
And
Like,
you
I
be
know
like,
he ain't gonna want me to go.
yeah,
No, I can't go.
Yes, or
Ooh,
if
a whole
you
shift
feel like
in
if I do
mindset.
go, maybe something gonna happen, and I don't want to make him unhappy.
Right.
You know, and it's like that's when you really start. But am I the type of person that really stay in the house?
Right.
Yeah.
Or I'm the type of person like, no, bitch, I want to go out and twerk my ass with my sister. You know what I'm saying? And then you find yourself being like, oh, baby, no, I can't go today. I'm gonna just stay home, even though that's not really what you want to do.
Yeah, I think it's definitely making you, minimizing you, causing you to lose your voice,
100%.
lose who you are as an individual, as a person, so they can dominate that space and control you. You find yourself doing things that you wouldn't usually do. You find yourself acting ways that you wouldn't normally act. You find yourself, one day you look up and you realize you don't even recognize who you are
Baby.
anymore. And that's what I feel like a toxic relationship is a situation in a relationship where it minimizes you and causes you to be a form of yourself that is not you.
100%.
That is causing you to be alternate than who you are, what you were created to be, to fit into the mold of somebody else's comfortability.
And one way to kind of notice whether or not you're even in a toxic relationship is if things become very mundane. Like you're doing the day to day, and you don't even realize that time is passing you by. Literally. You look up and it's years later and you realize that you've been doing the same thing.
In the same place.
Over and over and over again until you decide to hop off that hamster wheel. And then you realize that life has indeed been passing you by.
100%.
It's kind of like a time warp.
Yes.
Yeah, when you're living in toxicity, it is truly a time warp where you are not even aware of what is going on outside of your current situation. But it was one thing that I did want to say about the whole submission thing. So sometimes we look at like submission as a bad thing.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It's not. It's
So,
really not.
but when you have people that are controlling, that's when submission becomes
a negative thing.
100%.
a negative thing. But with your partner, you should feel safe
enough.
to naturally want to give the best version of yourself, which is often submission.
100%.
Because they
Because
earn
we-
that.
No matter exactly.
They have to earn that loyalty, that submission
Absolutely.
from you, because you've shown that you have the ability to be honest and truthful,
Absolutely.
and it's a building that you're building. Yes, you have to have that foundation.
Submission is the ultimate form of trust.
It is. Right.
It is. It's the ultimate form of trust.
Absolutely. So I know all of us are like strong women, but we want to be in our soft girl era too. So when we find that person that doesn't have to dominate, that doesn't have to be so dominant, that we can't actually submit without you showing that you macho man.
Right.
That's the
Because
difference
that's
between
not the only way to lead.
Right.
I think a lot of men think that's the only way I can lead is by just being physically, showing my physical strength.
That's
Exactly.
toxic masculinity.
That is
That's toxic
Definitely.
masculinity.
Yes.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So that kind of brings me into my next question. I'm gonna start with you, T-Wood. In that toxicity, like, did you ever or when did you ever find yourself compromising your own morals to make that person happy?
Ooh.
And do you think you contributed to the toxicity?
Yes. I would say in one of my past relationships, I not only was being toxic toward that person, but I was also absorbing their toxicity due to their insecurities. I was absorbing their insecurities into myself, so much so that I didn't even think that I was attractive anymore. And I'm talking about, we all got funny looking phases, but all through life, even in my funny looking phase, right, you can't tell me,
baby,
nothing, okay? Like, I was always, listen, I always knew, hey, I woke up and looked like this. I would be mad at me too, you know? And that's always like, I told y'all before last week, I was never really a girly girl. But, you know, me and women didn't always usually get along. And I always felt like, well, you just mad because you don't look like me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I can't help my genetics, right? But I really woke up and I really doubted every day. I'm like, I'm not attractive. I'm too fat. I'm too skinny. What if I change this hairstyle? I went through years and never once heard, hey, you look good. Hey, you're beautiful. Hey, this. And
that's
you
affirmation.
don't know affirmation.
Yes.
And you don't realize how deep-seated that sits, you know, within you. And I contributed to the toxicity because, one, I let a lot of things slide. I made myself a form of myself that wasn't true to me. So it wasn't fair to that person because I'm making them believe that I'm somebody that I'm not. And they're falling in love with somebody that is not really who I am. It's not fair to them either.
Yes.
On top of, there were situations where there are definitely red flags. And I definitely think that, you know, women, when there are red flags, pay attention to those red flags early on.
When a person shows you who they are, believe them.
Exactly. Like,
Child.
to them early
But you
on.
know what? In saying that, I want to pull on something that is stigmatized. And the truth is, what plays into, I feel like, a lot of toxicity when it comes to especially Black women is our culture.
Yeah.
Because I know growing up in a Nigerian household, you know, Nigeria is a very much, the man is the head of the household. He go out and make all the money and make the bread, and the woman is supposed to stay at home and, you know, cook and clean and take care of these kids. However many kids he say he want, listen, I give you your feeding money, you send the people to the market, and that's what you're supposed to do. And it's like, I will never forget one day when I was in Nigeria and I saw my aunt ironing my uncle's drawers, and I was like, "What, girl? What you doing?"
Not the drawers.
And she was just like, "What?" Because for me, I just felt like I knew the things that my uncle was doing,
Right.
and so I'm looking like, that nigga don't deserve you ironing, let alone his damn drawers.
Right.
Like, and she's just like,
Still love you, Uncle.
"Yeah, we do." But
Disclaimer.
no, it's like men really exhibit, like, as long as I'm the one paying the bills, that control.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm the breadwinner in the family, and I'm the one, you know, who is bringing home the bacon so you can cook it, then I can do whatever the hell I want to do, and you need to stay quiet.
And that's what
and
Atkins
stay in your place.
said on Reasonable Doubt. If y'all watched the show Reasonable Doubt, this past recent episode, Essence Atkins was the therapist on the episode, and she said that in abusive and toxic relationships, the man uses finances to control the woman.
100%. Yes.
Can't leave.
Exactly.
Yes, you may look like she lives this lavish lifestyle, but the house is
If
not
it's
in her
provided.
name. The car is not in her name. No accounts are in her name. She has no credit. She has no. If she had any credit, he's already made sure her credit is zero.
Which is a form of abuse. That's not even toxic. That's abuse.
Yeah. So,
And we'll get into that,
Yeah,
but we gotta start it off, kick it off where it starts, and it starts in the toxicity.
Absolutely.
But you also brought up a good point, Jenny, about like the family aspect of it. They seen it previously in their lives. They seen their dad cheat on their mom,
And
or
the
their
mom stay.
and the mom stay. Their grandparents, you know, my family. I've seen it in my own family where the man, he's doing whatever he wants to, and the wife is still at home being, you know, the wife, and you know, trusting everything he's saying, even when they know it's not true. Just because they want to keep that family mentality, they don't want to break up the family because they've seen what divorce can do. Because on the other side of it, when they see how the divorce triggers kids to like not want to be in the relationship fully, they step outside as well. So it's just those family aspects that also contribute to that.
I mean, but that's also in the reverse, because if you grow up and you see a woman disrespecting and not honoring her husband, her marriage. She's stepping out on her husband. She's cheating on her husband. She treating him like he ain't nothing, regardless of what he does. What that does is you watch that growing up, you see that it's like you see a good man being treated that way. Now you then, even if you don't believe in it, a part of you projects that. A part of you does that. And for a long time,
it's
and what y'all probably know from the last thing, you know, if y'all been watching, y'all still continue watching, but I am the only single one here. But a lot of that is because for a long time, I didn't believe in getting married. I didn't think that marriage was for me because I felt like if even a little bit of that is in me, no good man deserves that. No good man deserves
very big of
that level of toxicity, right? And it's better for me to be the rich auntie along with a puppy and a goldfish than to sit here and damage a good man because of that toxicity that I see, not knowing how to be different. Now, thank the Lord, I've grown, you know, through therapy, and I've grown and matured out of that. But I do recognize for a lot of women, if you have not taken this moment to be self-aware and realize that, hey, you may be the toxic person in this situation, because in some of my relationships, I was the toxic person. I didn't treat them right. I did, you know, do that. And so, you know, recognize that.
And I can agree. Like, for me, I feel like I like to argue. Because now, like, for sometimes if I wanted to be by myself, because I came to college with a boyfriend, and I just wanted a break sometime. Like, and that's not what he wanted. So we had different perspectives of what love was. And I was like, look, I want to go hang out with my friends and do stuff. So I just used to be mad, and I just say stupid shit, you know, to get him mad. Like, and then we'll be arguing or whatever, and then it's like, okay, you know, the slamming of the doors, and the TA come down the hall, because my room was like right next door to the TA room. But it's like, you know, why are you doing that? You know, just like sit down and talk with the person, communicate, you know, and just say like, I really want to go do this, you know.
Communication.
If you, you know, and be okay with, I think it's a thing of not, like, you're not okay with not being with this person. You feel like, you know, so I'm putting myself down. I'm like, not doing the things I like to do to satisfy him, but I'm unhappy.
But I feel like there are things that they make, that they say and their actions do that make you feel like they are the best that you could ever have. So it's like when you feel like this is the best you can have, you're willing to compromise anything to stay.
And even on top of that, this is your last chance, so you better make it work. Because how you know that next man coming around the corner
ain't worse.
Right.
But that makes it harder
to let go. Right.
And you find yourself staying stuck.
You vested time. That
time
you poured into the
time is
it's relative,
time is
we do have
but oftentimes people stay because of time, which is toxic itself. I've invested this much. Baby, sometimes you got to keep investing and sell to the highest bidder, okay? Like, you invested, but all means not going to get rid of it. Because one thing that I learned about, like, being in a toxic relationship is you truly do lose yourself. I remember saying this on national TV, that I was not a loving person, that I'm not an emotional person, that I'm not all of those things.
You said in episode 1, sis. You said it in season 1.
I sure did. I said that I wasn't those things, but I am.
You are.
But when you're in a toxic relationship with someone that is toxic, they not even bring out something out of you, they close in what you have.
They project.
And you go into you and make sure introvert. It makes you want to dim your light, especially when you want to be more expressive. It makes you want to dim yourself.
And sometimes you don't even notice, because I didn't notice. I just thought that I wasn't like that. I thought that I just wasn't an emotional person. I thought that I wasn't those things. I thought I wasn't sensual, sexual, all those kind of things. But baby, I am.
You honestly know who I feel like is the poster couple for toxic relationship and putting in that time part, and no shade, I don't want nobody come for me, but Jim Jones and Chrissy.
Oh yeah.
Because baby, I felt like she number one, she got on her knees and proposed to this man on national TV.
Yeah, crazy
That's
work.
wow.
That's number one.
Wow.
Then after he kind of really told her, nah, I'm good, she still stayed. Then she wanted a kid. He already has a kid, and she never got that kid.
Yeah.
And now she's at the point where she can't even have kids because you passed that age gap. And it's like, I think if I read correctly, she finally left. And it's like, but you gave him
so
20 plus
much
years.
Your best years.
Right.
Your best years.
So
of
while
your
you're
life.
looking at time invested, it's another perspective of you're losing time.
Yeah.
Time invested versus time
lost.
Yeah.
Like when you start seeing that there's
Them
nothing
ROIs,
coming out of your investment,
Yes.
and y'all gotta start taking on these projects because that's a toxic trait.
That
It's a toxic trait to take on
builder
projects
man.
and think that you can.
What they
Now,
say.
can men be changed? Absolutely.
If they want
If
to.
they want to be changed.
Right.
But also men, they will change for who they want to change for. So
That
baby,
part.
you're trying to do all this building when the next woman that comes,
Gonna
you're
get
wondering
all
why
the
he was
benefits.
able to get everything within 2 months because you wasn't the
wasn't
one.
it.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
yet you're staying there to try to make yourself the one. If it does not work, exit stage left.
Yeah.
What Taraji say in Think Like a Man, I cannot invest in something that doesn't yield tangible dividend.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't feel like that you lost. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, yes,
absolutely.
it hurt,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean give up on yourself.
Yeah.
Because at that point, that means that's not your person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you only need one. So why are you dating these multiple dudes trying to figure out which one it is? I mean, your person gonna come to you.
Mm-hmm.
So you got, and when you're alone, you should do that work on yourself to make sure
Absolutely.
that you're ready
And
to
take the
receive it
time to be
because-
alone because it's toxic not to.
Right.
But I
Yes, and that's some people's problem. Like they don't, that lonely spirit.
Yeah.
They just don't like
Yeah,
being
don't
alone.
like
They
being
gotta
alone.
be
That's
independent.
exactly what it is.
Yes, and I think we have to learn what lonely is. Because if I'm single and I have all my girls, I'm not alone.
Absolutely.
Very
So
much.
you're seeking companionship,
Right.
And you want to take time to nurture that, make sure that you're where you need to be, and the
Right.
person that you are, I guess, seeking after is what you want them to be as well. So,
Absolutely. Because
like,
there is a thing called trauma bonding.
Yeah.
Okay?
But
That
I
is when you
definitely
both have
wanna
experienced
say-
trauma and come together and you thinking that everything is great. But y'all both have this trauma and now y'all are bonding and now you in another toxic relationship.
I
spiral.
don't want it to always be considered, oh, you lost something, that you left something, because even though you left that relationship, you still learned something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should always take your lessons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
learn. So there's always a lesson. So even when you leave, even when you, and that's something that I had to learn for myself. Is
Yeah.
that even as much as it hurts to make this change after this time invested, I learned more about myself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
I learned more of what I needed in the type of woman that I needed to be and the type of man and husband that I would want. And that's a good thing too. So it doesn't always have to be negative.
Right.
I agree.
So my final question for you ladies is, what advice would you give to someone who is currently in a toxic relationship?
Run.
She's a runner. She's a track star.
I know.
So how do you really like break out of being in a toxic relationship?
First, identify that you're actually in one.
Yeah.
You have to also understand that, this is not normal. You can't just be going through these
Stop
things
normalizing.
and keep on making these excuses for things that
Right.
you know that's not right. Because when you feel it, your intuition, listen to yourself. You know
when I knew
when it's
I
not
was in
right.
a toxic relationship, y'all, so many people at this stage who I've been friends with since like maybe middle school or something. I had the same cell phone. I changed my number 4 times because within a span of like 3 months, because it was every time he would break my heart, I'd be like, I'm leaving. I would change my number because I know his number by heart. I don't want to call him. And then something would be like, oh, I miss him so much. Let me unblock my number, unblock his number. I'm
Just
calling
in case
again.
he texts me.
And then something, yes, exactly. And then you get that toxic ass text, and boom, you back in it again. And then I would something happens, then I change my number again.
I did not know
and
that.
I said, this shit
Back on the
crazy.
hamster wheel.
Yeah.
This shit is crazy.
I thought she was just being extra. That's why
No,
you take-
nobody knew. That is literally why I was changing my number. It is literally why I was changing. People were looking at me like, this bitch got a new number every fucking
I said the
week.
things you find out on the podcast. Right.
So that's what I do. This shit is toxic, baby.
Yeah. I would say advice I would give is to self-reflect. Like, really, when you self-reflect, you have to remind yourself that you're worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we lose our worth when we're dealing with toxic people because we look at the value that they bring to our lives instead of looking at the value that we bring to theirs. Okay?
That's a word.
Yeah.
For real.
marinate.
Catch that.
Marinate.
That's a real word. Tag me on it, okay?
Yeah.
Because you really don't want to
we will.
constantly
Merchandise.
put someone over you. And once you do that self-reflection, you'll realize that by stepping away, you're not losing.
Right. Yeah.
Many of us feel like we losing, but we're not losing, baby. You gain yourself back. And that's even bigger than anything else because staying and not being your true self, I'm telling you, years will go by and you will be doing the same thing
Not okay.
on a
Over and
different
over again.
day.
Not okay.
So the advice I would give is to reflect, to choose yourself. It is not selfish to choose you. It's not selfish at all.
Yeah.
And then get into some therapy. Like,
Talk to somebody
therapy
about
is
it.
your
Talk to
friend.
someone about
Talk to
it.
someone.
Talk to someone about it because
Somebody mature.
Yeah, someone
Don't talk to your
don't
friend.
talk to your friends. Not every
Counselor.
You're right.
Yeah.
Not always your single friends. Sometimes your single friends have great advice. But I would say
That's
talk
me. I'm
to
that single friend.
yeah, I would say talk to someone, a professional, about your about where you are within your relationship. You know, because they will be able to give you sound, unbiased advice. You know, and then again, I personally, what I did was I began to journal. And what journaling did for me, it allowed me to see how often things were happening. When I saw that there were patterns developing, like, every March of this year or every January or every this, and I'm noticing that it's happening more frequently. And I'm noticing that the things that we're going through is like increasing in terms of like the severity of what's going on.
Yeah.
Like when you begin to see that, now you can look back on it and you'll be crazy to look back and see 2 and 3 years of the same foolishness that was happening every 2 weeks.
Maybe it'll make you cringe.
It will.
Make you cringe,
Absolutely.
yes.
So be more self-aware
Yeah.
would be my advice.
For me, it would be to know that it's okay to be hurt
Yeah.
by leaving it. It's okay to cry and be in the pain, but know that it's going to hurt either way, whether you stay or you leave. So why not leave, get the help, talk to a professional, better yourself and move on and have a better future than staying and it hurting and you just, it's just repetitive toxicity. So that would be my advice. It's okay to cry. It's okay for it to hurt. Go through
Because that's
it.
how
Don't
you
hurt
end up on
anyway.
Snap.
Yeah, 100%. And at the end of the day, listen, when I finally got to the point, I wish the advice that somebody would give me, cut that nigga off, baby.
Stop
Because when I say it was nothing, and yeah, it may have led into my quote unquote hoe phase, but I feel like that was the best phase that I could have gone through because it taught me so many lessons. And I will never forget that final conversation. It was literally like, I have to love you. I have to love me more than I love you.
100%.
Because at this point, I'm putting you above myself.
And that's never good.
And you know what that man told me? He said, if you can't love me like I want to be loved, then I don't want you at all. Because I was like, I wanted to still be friends. And he told me, if you can't because that was the pattern. It was literally like, you tell me some shit and I come back. And then we burn the bridge, you tell me some shit, I come back. And I was like, at this point, I'm not doing that no more. Like I still love you to the point that I want to be friends, but I don't love you enough that I'm going to compromise me anymore. You don't come before me.
Right.
And he was thinking that, if he tells me that, I'm just gonna get right back into that damn hamster wheel.
And that's the problem with most women. We tend to keep going back, hoping for the fairy tale ending, hoping for all this, but all we're doing is teaching that behavior is okay. We're teaching that when you do this, it's okay because I'm still going to be here because I'm a ride or die. You get what I'm saying? But no, baby, I'm a ride
and die ain't nothing. Ain't nothing.
No nigga. nigga.
Let's ride the whip.
At the end of the day, Bonnie died with Clyde. So
Okay, I don't want no parts of that.
Right.
I just don't want any parts of that.
And for some people, when it's real toxic,
Yeah.
you will die.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna put yourself in a situation where it will compromise your actual health.
Absolutely.
You know, all of that. You can actually
Your
end
mental,
up dead.
absolutely.
Don't wake up dead.
Listen.
Don't wake up
Stress, give you a
dead.
damn heart attack. Listen.
Yes.
I would say that my advice, you know, last at the end of the day is always go to God with it. Because
And we forget to go to God first. First of all, we use
Going to God
that as the last resort.
Or to actually listen to God.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
listen.
Obedient.
Active.
because and it's all right to be stubborn. It's all right to go to God and know that you hard-headed because when I finally left my toxic relationship, it was after having about a 3-hour conversation with my brother, my sister's husband, which she ain't even know, but I literally, and he was in Nigeria, we were on the phone, I was in Spain, and we talked for 3 hours, and I was just talking to him. And
I know his
after
ears was
talking to
burning.
him-
I'm sorry.
but no, telling him about everything, explaining everything, and then after talking to him, I prayed to God, and I said, God, if this is not the man that I need to be with, clearly if you're giving me signs, I'm remedial. Okay, I am stupid. I ain't seeing it. I ain't getting it. It ain't sinking in. So I need you to smack me in the face with it. I need you to make it clear as day. Boom, right there. This is not the man for you. This is not your husband. This is a toxic relationship. Get out.
Period.
And when you ask God for something,
He showed
He
you.
will answer.
Never have mercy.
Baby.
That prayer sweeps through like a Rico. I'm telling you, that prayer sweeps right on through like a Rico. Seriously, because I'm
Jump out,
telling you,
boys.
within days.
Yeah, no, for real.
Within days.
Yeah.
It was, as clear. And as soon as it happened, I said, well, God, I asked and you answered.
Right.
And I packed my stuff
Prayer
and I
changes.
left.
She sure did.
Oh, it does.
And it was the
It
happiest
does.
day of my life. Hallelujah.
Yes, and you gotta listen to what he's talking to you and when he because he'll give you that answer,
He will.
and then you'll ignore it and be like, "Well, no, God, hold on." Next time, it was the next time.
God
You
be
have to
telling
listen.
you.
He be telling you, and he anticipates each time.
Every
you don't
time.
listen, it gets worse and worse, and then you're like, "Why is this happening?" You ain't listening. Your heart hated. Do what he said.
Yeah.
Walk away.
So I just want to ensure that, we are women. And so naturally we're talking about our experiences with the partners that we have. But I also want the men that have tuned in to understand that toxicity goes both ways.
It does.
So remember, I started off with that 56% of both men and women. And so make that clear that men too, y'all experience toxic ass women.
Broken women. Broken women are
Broken women.
And that will take you through the root. So you need to know also as a man when it is time to get up
out.
and leave because you are worth more than being in that relationship.
Yeah.
Ain't that what happened to that rapper or whatever? Ended up he was sleeping with that woman and she was toxic, and then the other man, her ex-boyfriend, came and shot him, and left her, shot him in the house, in the apartment, and left, and then killed himself. But she's sitting there perfectly fine, but now he dead.
See?
Now he dead.
Toxic.
For no
Toxic
reason.
reason.
Like when it's toxic, men leave.
Yeah. So I know this episode was a little heavy for, our listeners, but it is one of the realest things that we want you all to ingest and take the time to process. Because if you are currently experiencing a toxic relationship, really take the time to analyze yourself and figure out how you can get out of it. Whether man or woman or anything, please take the time to heal yourself, love yourself, and know that you are worth more than the situation that you're in, and God has better for you. Trust me when I say God has better for you.
does.
And his timing will always be the best timing.
Yeah.
Hello,
Man.
So that's the end of this podcast. I'm just letting y'all know as we prepare to, transition into the next one. Y'all think this was deep, but baby, our next episode, we talking domestic violence when it gets physical, emotional, spiritual, breaking down, and your life is literally hanging in the balance. So if you know that this gonna be a trigger for you, like be in a space where you can really internalize and process.
Right.
So thank you all for tuning into this episode. We love and appreciate you. Make sure you comment. Make sure you like. Make sure you subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere we are to Simply Incredible Sisters, the Sis Podcast. We love y'all. Bye.
Bye, sis.